Welcome to 5 Questions. This episode is being brought to you today by Endpoint Systems, Calgary's trusted technology partner. Click below for more information. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss any episodes. Hello and welcome to 5 Questions with Mario Toneguzzi. Joining me today is Anila Lee Yuen, who is President and CEO of the Center for Newcomers in Calgary. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start off by asking you just a little bit, if you could explain what the center is all about and what it does.
So we are a not-for-profit charity. We are primarily funded through the governments, through all 3 levels of government, plus some donations and family foundations, different things like that. And our primary job is to do 2 things. One, it's to help newcomers to Canada fully feel included and participate as full citizens in Canada. And the second part is to help the community welcome newcomers. That's through volunteering, through job opportunities, through just basically being good neighbors.
How many people do you reach and deal with on an annual basis?
Well, when there's no COVID, we see about 1,000 people come through our doors every day.
Every day?
Every day. So that's from about 8:30 in the morning to about 9 o'clock at night. We will have anywhere from, at minimum, we'll have about 200 or 300 clients in the space, and usually about 500 or 600 at any given time, so about 1,000 throughout the day. And we don't really have a very specific numbers yet. That's one of the things that we're working on. A charity, you don't have the money for the data and everything else. So we like to say that we see a minimum of 10,000 unique clients every year.
So tell me a little bit about the programs you offer. Like what kind of specific things do you do for newcomers?
So, there's a misnomer in our community around, just in terms of media and things like that, where people often think that as newcomers come to Canada, that they don't speak English, right? Or they don't speak French. But we know that the majority of newcomers are coming on our point system. And so they either speak English or French. So, so the services that we offer can include for their family members and for refugees that don't speak English to be able to offer them English classes for free. That's a big thing that we do. The other big thing is employment. So we help newcomers in terms of understanding, what a resume in Canada is like versus where they were, interview skills, helping them with networking, connections into the business world, into community, and often bridging programs as well. So if they want to transition from one job to another or one career to another, we help them with that. We also have youth programs. We also have an entire program dedicated to the most vulnerable in our community. Mm-hmm. So case management work to help with mental health, to help with, post-war trauma, all kinds of things that are, really heinous things that are very difficult often for us as Canadians to really fully understand.
Hey, don't forget to subscribe to our channel to be able to receive our newest updates. Hope you enjoy the rest of the episode. Is there a typical client that you have in terms of, demographics or regions of the world that they come from?
Sure. So the majority of our newcomers currently are coming from places like India, the Philippines, and China. Are kind of our 3 largest locations. And from our refugees, they're coming from the Middle East, from Iraq, from Syria, and from Eritrea. So, Ethiopia and that region is typically where we're seeing the majority of them coming from. And so if they're typically a newcomer that's coming in immigration status, then their profile would be something like they could come to the Center for Newcomers saying, hey, I just arrived, I have a job lined up potentially. Where's my church? Like, which church do I go to? This is my denomination, or where's the local grocery store? How do I get my kids enrolled in school? Different things like that. To, people that may have more needs or more issues in terms of trying to get a job, dealing with post-war trauma. Potentially their kids are having a hard time adjusting because they had all of their friends and everything back home. Especially like if you think about, how hard it was for any of us in junior high and high school, right? In those kind of adolescent days. Now to be moved somewhere else where you don't speak the language and your friends aren't there, the kind of trauma that you can endure as a child, it can be really big, right? So being able to help kids through that transition, and more extreme situations where children feel more isolated, get into criminal activity or gang involvement, get lured into those kind of things. So we have a program specifically dedicated to that as well.
Okay. Well, immigration and sort of refugees can be a controversial subject in this country. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of immigrants from other, coming from other countries and the impact that they have not only on our economy but on our society?
Absolutely, and thank you for asking that question because I think it's really important. I'd always like to say that the first people that came to Canada, besides our Indigenous people that were already here, they meet the definition of what we call a refugee right now. They were trying to escape something, whether that was religious persecution, political persecution, poverty, famine, all economic or other kinds of disasters that were happening, and so we're a country built on refugees, and the demographics have changed over time, and who's discriminated against has changed over time. So when we first started Canada, if you weren't from France or you weren't from England, you were discriminated against, right? So, I once met a 92-year-old gentleman who asked me where I was from. And when I said Canada, he actually gave me a big hug. And I was a little bit taken back. And he said he was born and raised in Canada, but he was of Scottish ancestry. And growing up, he was never allowed to say he was from Canada. He had to say he was Scottish and from Scotland, and that he was discriminated against because of that. Right. And so we know that who is discriminated against and who is othered has changed based on who has had the ability to immigrate to Canada. And so now we're seeing more waves of people coming from, like I said, from China and India and Philippines and parts of Africa and everywhere else, where the majority of people would be what we call people of color currently. And so we're seeing a lot of discrimination, but unfortunately, it's nothing new. As you might know from your own family background, there was a time when Italians were discriminated against heavily, and often, unfortunately, can still be based on the names. And we've lost a lot of our heritage of our community because people felt the need to change their names, to anglicize their names, to change their identities a little bit more in order to blend in, many, many years ago. And so I'm hoping, and we're hoping collectively, that through more advanced conversations, and having all of the people like you and I that were born here, that have ancestors, that have family that came from other places, that we can speak up and we can say that we're very successful, we're contributing to our community, and therefore having newcomers come in is just going to be a continuity of that, right?
Thanks a lot for joining us today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, that was Anila Lee Yuen, who is President and CEO of the Center for Newcomers in Calgary. This has been 5 Questions with Mario Toneguzzi. Thanks for joining us today. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Remember, if you want someone you know to be our next guest, click below in our description. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe so you'll never miss an episode.